I'm going to ask a question. You were just talking a little bit about security legislation in Canada, and I know that the Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, or the FIPA, locked us into a 31-year deal to protect Chinese investments in Canada. And I know that in theory, there is a provision for the Canadian government to block investments due to security concerns. However, of course, it was such a ridiculous mess with regards to Huawei and could in fact take between 5 and 10 years. Do you believe that the FIPA has made it more difficult for Canada to push back on national security threats coming from the Chinese government?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. Ms. McPherson, I'm not an expert on FIPA, but what I can tell you is over the last number of years, we have seen how effective the tools under the Investment Canada Act have been to counter investment in Canada that have been or could be detrimental to our national security. There are security provisions in the Act that prevent the disclosure of specific details, but I can tell you there's more and more activity in our organization at CSIS and with the other agencies of the National Security Community that are looking specifically at those investments. And throughout this period, it has not been the FIPA has not been one of the issues that has been raised to my level to say that it was of concern. But there are other experts in government who may speak in more details.
Well, and I think some of them may be joining us later, so we can ask that again. You did talk about security legislation, though, with my colleague, Mr. Trudel. What security legislation do you think does need to be updated with regards to the Canadian government and how we deal with these crimes?
So we have been quite open about the fact that the CSIS Act was created in 1984. At a time when we're talking about analog technology, when the threat environment was during the Cold War, so very different. And so the world has evolved, unfortunately, going in the wrong direction in many points of view regarding Canada's national security. And our effort has been to generate a mature discussion with the government, with Canadians, to make sure that more people are involved. That's why, for example, CSIS and I personally have been engaged in making more public speeches, engaging with communities like universities, business sector, marginalized communities, to essentially talk about the fact that national security in our country should not be a zero-sum game, that we should be able to have both the right tools and the right legislation to protect Canadians while at the same time protecting their privacy and their security interests. So that has been the focus of our efforts.
And you're not sure that we have that in place right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McPherson.
I'm not an expert, but there are other experts that, more people are involved for national security.
Protect Chinese investments in Canada, how we deal with these crimes.